Hi everyone, it's Michael and welcome back for this new video. Well, lately I've been suffering from a syndrome that I guess every designers know, which is the blank page. And I'm guessing you're not alone, so I will maybe give you some tips that can help you, well, fight the blank page like I did. So first of all, I love to get inspired. So yes, you can go on Instagram, you can go on Pinterest, and you can see so many beautiful artwork out there. And maybe it can be overwhelming, and maybe you will lower your own skills based on what you can see about others. But don't worry, everyone has this syndrome of the blank page, and I guess you just have to start. So as you know, I love print design, and that's why I want to be inspired by others women in print. And lately I've been working on a famous print designer that I just love to learn about and to, well, get into her universe and learn more about her style, her creations. And that's why today I decided to get inspiration from her, which is Barbara Kruger. And that's why today I wanted to, well, experience in a way to be like her, to, well, create something like her. So let's learn more about Barbara Kruger. Well, she is born in 1945 in New Jersey, in USA. And she started her design path in 1965 when she integrated a designing school in New York. And 1 year later, she is already working for magazines like Vogue and Mademoiselle. She started making a photomontage in 1981. And her work uses advertising images to talk about problems in a consumer society. Her posters often include bold and short slogans written in a strong printed letters, where she usually uses a few colors like black, white, red, and some gray. By combining photos with powerful words, she grabs people's attention and she makes them think about social issues. What an amazing woman! And what to do after talking about her? Well, obviously, I want to make a poster, but let's learn more about how to create one before starting. So first of all, what makes a good poster? Well, a poster has two purposes. One is to grab attention, and the other is to convey a clear message. So whether it's for a protest or a product, even an art show, well, the rules are the same for each one. And you have to ask this question. First of all, who is your poster for? You have to describe who is your target. Then, where will it be displayed? Is it in a subway, a bus station, in the street? And finally, what does the spectator has to do as an action? Is it to buy a product, to scan a QR code, or to go on your website to have more information? When you have all of these information, you can start creating your posters based on grids. So grids are here to help you keep your poster balanced even though you have so many information in it. So first of all, you can use a basic column grid, which is 2 or 3 columns, but you can add more if you want. Then you have to set the margin and spacing, because consistency is key. And finally, you can align your text and images based on these lines. There is many grids that exist, so you can just go on Google and use one that already exists, or you can create your own. Then typography is super important, because it represents 80% of your poster, and you can use an image to support your message. So here you can use 1 or 2 fonts maximum. One for the headlines and one for the body. Then you can use font contrast. For example, your title can be in bold and your information's in regular. And don't forget to set a hierarchy. Your titles has to be larger than your subtitles. Then you have the date or location. And finally, the details are the smallest. And finally, use consistent line spacing to have a clear content. And here is a little tips. If you are doing prints, don't forget to check your colors, which should be CMYK, and also your resolution, which should be at least 300 dpi. And speaking of colors, it's not just aesthetic, it's functional, because it can guide the eyes through your poster. For that, you can use high contrast for text legibility, for example, dark and light. Also, limit yourself to 2 to 3 main colors and use color to create hierarchy. Title, for example, can be in a bold color and the details in gray. And to have a good combination of color, you can use these websites: Adobe Colors, Colors.co, and Color Hunt. And now let's add some visual, like images, illustration, or texture. Here are some tips again. You can use your imagery to enhance, but not to distract your spectator from the message. And also you can add vector shapes for framing or movement. And finally, you can add textures like grain, paper fold, or gradients to bring more depth into your visuals. So now that you've done your poster with all of these steps, here are some questions that you have to ask yourself at the end. First of all, is the message clear in 3 seconds? Then, can someone see it from 2 meters away? And finally, are the details readable up close? And finally, you have to export your poster. So if it's for print, export it in PDF, CMYK, and 300 dpi. And if it's for web or social media, export it in PNG or JPEG and in RGB. And also check the size in pixel for each social media because it's always different. So here is a guideline. So now we know all the rules, and it's time to get a little bit more inspired by Barbara Kruger's work. So as always, I just love to go on Pinterest to create a mood board. And as you can see, I'm not the only one that get inspired by Kruger. Like for this poster, real or fake. And also, I really like the photos old and vintage look and the different typographic composition, which is either black, white, or red. So now it's time that I create my own poster. And I need some photos, obviously, on the background. So that's why I usually go on Unsplash, Pixel, Pixabay, or FreePic to have free photos but with a good quality. And I just love to go on this website without a clear idea. Because if I have something specific in mind, I tend to be frustrated at the end because it do not fit exactly what I want. So that's why I just use serendipity, which is a good luck in making unexpected and fortunate discoveries. I guess, in other words, it's go with the flow. So after all of these researches, I have a good photo base. And now it's time that I write the slogans or the phrases that either I have in mind or that I found on internet. And of course, I'm using my faithful notebook. And now let's open Photoshop and finally start working. Here is a tip if you want a vintage effect on your photos. First of all, you have to put your image in black and white or do your own color settings. Then you go on Filter, Noise, Add Noise. Then you choose your wanted quantity of noise. Here I go. And finally, still go on Filter, Pixelate, and Crystallize. Once again, you put your wanted quantity and finally, you have your vintage look. So, have you seen? I've been a little bit overboard because I didn't do one, or not even two. I did 5 posters. I just had so much fun doing the first one that I just couldn't stop myself. And I guess we can clearly see that I destroyed the blank page. So here are the final results, and as always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and see you next time.